From United Nations Television, this is UN in Action.
In Afghanistan, hundreds of women are in prison, many of them mothers. 18-year-old Krishma is one of about 90 inmates of Badam Bagh, the only women's prison in Kabul.
It's difficult to take care of a child in prison. If you have somebody at home, it's better for a child to stay with a family member than in jail. They don't learn manners here.
But Badam Bagh is an improvement for Krishma and her young daughter. Just 2 years ago, they lived in the female section of Policharki, the notorious Afghan jail. Recognizing the special needs of female prisoners and their children, the UN Drugs and Crime Office, UNODC, with the financial support of the Italian government, built this prison. Krishma has been found guilty of murder and sentenced to 16 years in prison for a crime she says she didn't commit.
My friend's father was killed. When I went to their house, the house was broken into and the burglar killed my friend's father. But they arrested me for the murder.
An appointed defender is fighting Krishma's conviction. With no family to care for the child, she's not sure what the future holds for her daughter. According to the law, children under 3 can stay with their mothers in prison. But those between 3 and 7 should be placed in special facilities adjacent to the prison. Older children, however, are supposed to be integrated into regular schools in the city. But the reality is that many of these children have no other place to live. Even if they do, experts say that the separation from their mothers due to imprisonment has a traumatic effect on both. Another young inmate at Badam Bagh, Fauzia, has 7 children. She has decided against bringing them here. They live with their father.
I'm a mother. I do not want to keep them in jail.
But why is Fauzia in prison? She's charged with leaving her husband's house after an argument.
It's been 2 months since my arrest. I'm here because after my husband had hit me, I got angry, so I left my house and went to stay with my sister-in-law.
Because Fauzia's nephew went to speak to her husband on her behalf, both Fauzia and the nephew were charged with adultery. Michael Hartman is UNODC's criminal justice advisor in Kabul.
Article 427 of the Penal Code says, a person who commits adultery shall be sentenced to long imprisonment.
Fauzia's crime has not been proven, but she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. In another country, Fauzia and many of the women here would not even be in jail. They would be considered victims rather than perpetrators. But after 3 decades of war, the extreme Islamic policies toward women have had a devastating impact on them. Today, amid renewed attacks by the Taliban and rampant corruption, the women of Afghanistan are still struggling to get justice.
Adultery is considered not just when married people have sex, but when unmarried people have sex. That's their definition of adultery. And that would be, I think, what you were considering when you talk about a moral crime.
According to Afghanistan's constitution, no deed is considered a crime unless made a crime by a law before the commitment of the offense.
What happens, unfortunately, is that there are certain crimes which are part of the Sharia, which for the West you might call it like the common law. It's out there, it is part of the principles, but it's not written down yet. And that Sharia law, unfortunately, and I say this from my cultural perspective, is enforced here.
As a sign of positive change, the Afghan government now recognizes the special needs of women prisoners. One of the major improvements has been employing female guards. But the issue of having children here remains. Like their mothers, they too await their destiny behind bars. This report was prepared by Sasha Gorishek for the United Nations.